Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Round of Sound. This is the 25th year anniversary of this program, the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. We have a lot to get into. College football making news all weekend, a massive shuffle in the college football playoff, and a firing to talk about. We'll get into that, but the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be the Steelers, who are now at 9 wins and 3 losses with some breathing room over Baltimore. And here to discuss is your panel tonight. We have Andrew Fillipponi from the PM team, and a man who wears many hats beyond that. Also, Will Graves, outstanding journalist from the Associated Press.
Bring a little NPR vibe.
I was going to say
that.
the first
It's
turtleback in the
actually
25-year history of this show.
It's
No,
Bill Cowher.
come on, there's gotta
Bill
be.
Cowher wears those all the time, so you're just taking after Bill Cowher.
I'm going to do Nate Burleson next week.
What colors will you pick? All right, let's get into it. Pony, I want to start with you on this one. A big win for the Steelers. Cincinnati was a desperate team. They have one of the best offenses, but one of the worst defenses. Your biggest takeaway from this game today?
Russell Wilson. I mean, you needed to go in there and win a shootout against one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. They put points on everybody, but the issue with the Bengals is they lose to good teams. So they score a lot, but they give up more. And after what happened in Cleveland and with the Baltimore no touchdown show, we needed to see this offense look like the other good offenses, like what Jaden Daniels did, what Lamar Jackson did against them twice. And Russell Wilson did that to the tune of over 400 yards, one of his best passing yardage days in the history of his career.
Ever.
Crazy
for him,
because
It's crazy.
he should be in the Hall of Fame someday.
I mean, when's the last time you could watch a Steeler game and feel confident that they could match somebody touchdown for touchdown? I really think, look, the pick six early, like even on TV, they're like, Gene's like, that probably should have been a penalty, but for them to respond immediately. Then since he comes back down, they respond immediately. I mean, that to me was the most impressive. This team has not been capable of winning these types of games since, 2017?
Yeah.
And so I think for them to win that type of game, because you might get one of those in the playoffs. You might. I'm not saying you will, but you might. And they at least seem capable, whereas before, did we think that they could keep up with the Chiefs or the Bills? No, I think there's a chance they can now.
And they have a guy like Russell Wilson, as you said, Pony. So I want to ask you this question. A lot of people are debating what happens at the end of the season. Russell Wilson is a free agent to do as he pleases. What should the Steelers do? I know there's still 5 games left in a postseason, but if this course continues, what is he worth? How many years would you give him if you wanted him to stay around?
Yeah, I'd say right now I want to give him a contract extension because it beats the alternatives. I think it's better than counting on Justin Fields and giving him kind of a bridge contract, which would be considerably less than Russell Wilson. I don't think I know they're not going to be in position to draft one in the first round because of where they're going to finish in the standings. They just clinched another Mike Tomlin non-losing season.
18th in a row. 18th in a row.
And Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold and that whole reservoir of quarterbacks. I'd rather go with the devil I know than the one I don't. So right now I'm saying do it, but it's not an open and shut case because there's still so much football left. And the other
But
side
if it continues, what do you think is manageable
But the other
for them?
side of it is we're watching other quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers fall apart at 40 years old.
Father time is
Okay, he just turned 36. Right. He talked about that after the game today. So that's what makes, even if he hasn't finished as strong, makes the contract extension a complicated endeavor, I think.
I mean, and let's, look at an older guy that signed a contract extension in the spring, Kirk Cousins. What did he do today? He basically cost them a chance to really grab a hold of that division. So I would be more concerned about the term. Like, I don't want 4 years for anybody unless you do it like a Ben contract where you have some voidable years at the end.
How about 3?
3 would be okay-ish.
3's tough.
That takes you up, knocking on 40's door.
I mean,
and that's a tough
yeah, but
number.
I mean, like we see guys on the other side of 40, like Rodgers, who's just not, he can't play anymore, right? So Russ, I mean, I'll be honest, I was absolutely wrong. I thought that he was cooked. I thought that I did not think that and I tweeted that. I came on here and said that. I wrote that. I was kind of in on Fields early in the season. The touchdown pass to Freiermuth today, I was just like, oh. Well, that is a play. I mean, he's not 26 anymore, but man, that's a special play. That was a special play.
He's a professional quarterback, something they really haven't had in terms of making those kinds of plays on a consistent basis here, which is why it's encouraging for this offense. Now, we also saw George Pickens make some big plays, but we also saw George Pickens take 2 fouls. I thought the second one he was going to be ejected from the game, but it wasn't that. But Mike Tomlin addressed it afterwards. He said that he has to grow up. That message has been delivered to him several times, I think. So what has to happen next?
Can I just say, for starters, I was surprised that he said that because he's been so supportive of Pickens. And I thought, especially with the second penalty, there was actually room for him to make excuses for him again in this game, because George said he just signaled for a first down, and he does do that after every play. So there was, in my opinion, plausible deniability there. Plus, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's in the rule book. That to me is not something that they need to legislate out of football. On the scale of things, George Pickens has done bad this year. I have that very low on my list. So I was surprised that the coach gave him very tough love, because he's been, every time the kid's done something wrong, he's always had his back.
Yeah. Trust me, I mean, look, I'm in that group in there on Tuesdays that are trying to, what's George's deal? Why are we still having these problems with George? They're just so unnecessary. Like, it wasn't like the end of the Browns game where he's getting into it with a guy. It wasn't even like the play against. Right, like this was just like why wouldn't the one today was. But that's the problem. Today, I can understand him. I think teams know they can get under his skin, but this wasn't that. This was him just being stupid. This was him. I mean, and they were calling the game tight. They were calling the game super tight. And so, like,
the pass interference.
The dropping the ball on the guy's stomach was just kind of dumb. Like, if you're going to leave it up to interpretations, I'm with Pony. Do I think that the gun thing is like a major issue?
I'm not even sure it was a gun thing.
But they're pulling the trigger or whatever he did. But the bigger thing here is
I thought it was a first down signal too.
Who explains the rule book, Tim? Because let's remember when he had the eye black thing, right? Like, I asked him point blank, did anybody explain this to you?
Another thing,
and he said he didn't know. He said, "Oh, I didn't know." And I said, "Well, Cam got fined 7 years ago for this, for having something about his dad in there." Oh, you mean before I got in the league, nobody told me? So somebody needs to sit down with this kid and say, these are the rules. And this is the bigger problem, Pony. I mean, this is his third season. It's not like this is year 1 or year 2. Doesn't that bother you?
I agree with you on that. The thing I will say in defense of him, though, now, is he is getting closer to the Antonio Brown territory, where the production is so good that it allows for you to put up with more of a headache. And that was not the case, I think, earlier this season.
Yeah, his numbers are big. There's no question. When we come back, we're going to talk about the offensive line, which did a very good job today against some very good pass rushers, including one guy who's tops in the NFL in sacks. We'll also talk about their defense. It's elite at times, but it also gives up points at times and big plays at times. What is this defense? It's all next right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, we're back talking about the Steelers' big win, 44-38, highest scoring game in the NFL this season. Who would have thought it would take that many points, but it needed to be done, as it turned out. Let's talk first about, Will, the offensive line of the Steelers, specifically Dan Moore, the internal part of it. There were some gaping holes, and I know the tight ends contributed to that, but I thought Dan Moore responded very nicely for
He was good, but like the defense, let's not pretend they were playing the 86 Bears or the 85 Bears either. So it wasn't like they were playing some dominant
But they
group.
had playmakers.
But they responded. To my earlier point, they responded, and he was excellent. And Russ, there were still a couple times I would like to see him get rid of the ball a little bit sooner, but in general, he's shown if he gets a little bit of time, he's effective, and they were good.
I'm just so perplexed by how the Bengals could be this bad. Defensively.
Oh, yeah.
And
I didn't think they could be, but they were worse
some
than
of these names are guys that helped them win a playoff game in Kansas City. The defensive coordinator is the same guy who drew up the game plan for that game. And it's not like they're just, without household names, whether it's Trey Hendrickson. I know Wilson didn't play today, but their secondary, Mike Hilton, he's just about ready to be done with football. I thought he was terrible. So it's stunning. In the same game plan offensively that allowed for Kenny Pickett the week after Matt Canada got fired to put up 400 yards, essentially worked today where the middle of the field is just wide open. Right. And for the first 10 or 15 minutes of the game, Russell Wilson just dumped the ball off to the running back over the middle.
I was stunned
and nobody was there, and they never adjusted.
And even think of Van Jefferson's the clinching sort of catch there towards the end. How does he? Why does that DB jump the out? Van didn't even make a move. He didn't even make a move. He just kind of stood there and went right by him.
If you think about it, the lack of faith in that unit is so strong that they declined that holding penalty at the end of the game, which made absolutely no sense. I thought it was actually
the only sense it was time.
It was a time.
The time stops on a holding call.
Right.
But it's second down again.
But it's second
down
again.
But now they can't run for a first down on third down.
All they have to do is run 2 plays and the clock keeps moving.
Yeah, but the game's not over in that situation.
No, I know.
The Bengals are pretty much guaranteed to get the ball back if they accept the holding penalty.
With very little time left. I understood both sides of that play for sure. Now let's talk about their defense, because this is a defense that is considered to be elite, and they have elite players all over the place. But they got gouged, especially in the run game early a little bit by Chase Brown. I was surprised by that. There were some big plays. They gave up yards. You would expect that. But at the same time, they made some big plays when they had to make big plays. That seems to be the way this team operates.
the Bengals have done this to just about everybody this year. I mean, they are an excellent. I mean, they should be. I feel bad. Like, this might be the best, literally the best statistical season of Joe Burrow's career, and they're going to go like 6-11, you know. And so, like, he might not be as good as he is right now. Higgins is probably gone. I mean, this is a total, you know, from week 1 on, when the Patriots, when they lost to the Patriots, it's been a disaster for them. The defense, that being said, defensively, their offense is elite. The Steelers' defense, you get into those track meet games, sometimes it's like a basketball game where you can get kind of lulled into this up and down thing. And look, they couldn't get a lot of pressure early, but when they did get pressure, they made impactful plays. And I think Mike T will take that trade-off.
Yeah, especially against that team for sure.
I was actually more impressed with their defense than I was their offense in this game.
Really?
Yeah, because of some of those plays that they made that ended up, I think, being the difference in the outcome. The strip sack by Herbig that got picked up for a touchdown by Wilson. The strip sack by T.J. Watt on Burrow. The tip ball by Hayward and the interception by Jackson. I mean, the score is going to say they gave up 38 points, but also 2 of those touchdowns were in complete garbage time when they were in a prevent defense. They gave up 3 points in the third quarter. You know, that's, again, the period of the game where they seem to make really good adjustments, and they've been dominant all year, and I think it happened again in this game. So I tip it's going to look bad numbers-wise, but I actually thought the defense did a pretty good job.
I mean, and you know, we always talk about the Steelers, their ability to find receivers, but I mean, when Herbig is a 4th rounder and Peyton Wilson, all the questions around him, like his resume, he should have been in the first couple rounds, right? And those guys are making him, I mean, how are there 131 players picked before Herbig?
How about the Johnson for Jackson trade?
Johnson for Jackson. How about signing Elliott? Elliott's been terrific for them. One of their most aggressive players.
But why can't it flip? Why can't Elliott? I guess Elliott's more of a strong safety, but I think the issue with Elliott is it's allowed for him to be the guy that roams all over the place, and it's turned Minka into Darren Perry. Right. And I don't like that. And it's just, I'm sorry, Bob. For $18 million, I agree. I can sign Justin Simmons for $5 million and tell him to play center
field. A lot
of
the throws were to the outside. They had some in the middle plays, but also before it got to Minka. So I think they're comfortable with that. Real quick, I want to ask about the Ravens. Now, they lost today. Justin Tucker looks like he has major problems, which is not good for that football team. So the Steelers have a 2-game lead plus a tiebreaker. What will it take, Will, for them to win this division, just get it done?
I mean, win the games they should win, which means beat Cincy, beat the Browns, and then maybe you try to take one of those other 3. I think, like, the Chiefs maybe on Christmas might be the most gettable of those 3 games. So I think if they can win those 3, I think that's the easiest path to the playoffs.
I think they're in a great spot now. I mean, the Ravens on Christmas have to go to Houston. Now that's a massive challenge because Houston is 8-5, but they've let bad teams beat them this year. No, I think that they're in a great spot. If they beat the Ohio teams, I think they're going to end up winning the division, and they should go 2-0 against them.
And that means a home playoff game. When we come back, we're going to talk about what happened in college football yesterday. Wild day. It led to some interesting decisions today that were made, West Virginia in particular. That's all coming up when we continue right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Lots of shuffling going on. Going to be interesting on Tuesday night to see what the college football playoff will look like now. But Penn State has a chance to play for, who would have thought, a conference championship and then get an automatic bid. Will, I want to talk about this because it's weird. Franklin was on his way out after a loss to Ohio State. That's what people wanted. Ryan Day loses to Michigan. People want him out. They're still going to be in this format. You see a firing today by Neil Brown down in West Virginia. Pat Narduzzi's on somewhat of a hot seat. What do you do if you're some of these universities in these kinds of situations?
So I'm a WVU grad. Let me tell you a little story. I'll make it real quick. Last week at their home finale against UCF, tickets on SeatGeek, $8. I asked my wife and kids, hey, you want to go down the game? No. I call a couple of my friends. Hey, you want to go down the game? No. I call a couple of people from church. Hey, do you want to go down the game? No. There's no juice around that program. And the problem is it's almost like a relief pitcher. You'd rather pull them 1 year too early than 1 year too late.
Who's going to be their next coach?
Nick Saban, didn't you hear?
No,
Twitter says it's going to be Nick Saban.
Jimbo Fisher's a name you've kicked around.
Well, because he's obviously a West Virginia guy and he's still owed so much money by A&M with that buyout, I wonder if they could get him for cheaper is what I was saying to you guys off the air. I feel like that would be a passion project of his. He'd be very attainable for that school. And obviously he's won a national championship and just stunk at the last.
I mean, this sounds crazy to me, but like because of what Rich Rod did in 13-9
why not bring
and all
him
that.
back?
I literally, if Bobby Petrino, I was in Louisville when Bobby Petrino left, and the idea of him coming back at any point was crazy to me. And then he ended up, and where's he at now? He's the offensive coordinator at Arkansas, which again is just as crazy. So I think I would be fine with Rich Rodriguez coming back. I would be.
And he's kind of turned his career around.
Rejuvenated things, yeah.
Yeah. What about Day in Ohio State? Should he have his job at the end of this year? They're still going to be in it, and they still could win the whole thing. Again, just look at Franklin.
You trust that coach? You trust that coaching staff in a crunch time?
No, I think what they need to do is hire Mike Vrabel. That would be my move if I'm them. After he was fired by Tennessee, he's obviously an Ohio State guy. I thought he was a good coach with Tennessee.
I did too.
And didn't just have
I thought he'd get another NFL job.
We know the NIL money just is unlimited there. They're paying like a roster. They got a salary cap like most NFL teams. So that's what I would do. I'd bring him in.
I mean, it is. I watched that game. That was me watching, like, the 13-9 game will always be painful for West Virginia grads, but I have a lot of friends that are Ohio State fans, and to watch them sort of like just the way that it was like watching 13-9 2.0. The way they absolutely, home game, massive favorite. You get X if you win this game, and they just.
I think Ohio State missed a quarterback who's at Syracuse now. That's just my take on it.
He did a pretty good job. And, oh, man, that game yesterday. How about Clemson getting
He led the country in passing yards this year.
Didn't do the ACC anyway.
The ACC had a bad day.
He had one horrible game against Pitt, and otherwise he had a really good year.
Okay, but.
Yeah.
But it's going to screw the ACC in the end because they're just going to get the one team in. Yeah.
It went from maybe 3 to 1.
I don't know about that. What if Clemson wins? You don't think SMU gets in?
I think the committee's looking for a reason to
Well, I think that's
bump
BS. I don't think they should be penalized for playing an extra game.
I understand that, but same thing. Is SMU's pretty good? I don't think they'll get the benefit of the doubt if they should lose. But I think they're going to beat Clemson anyway. So, what about Narduzzi, real quick? I know he has 6 years left. I don't think there's anybody out there who really thinks he's going to be relieved of his duties after 10 years. But what should be the expectation next year for them?
Well, the expectation is you've got to do better than 3-5 in the ACC. It's not that
after
good of a
the
league.
beginning they had, sure.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to bring Eli Holstein back and you're going to bring Cade Bell back. So you would think with an extra year here that both of those guys would do better with more
You say that
players.
certainty. They're going
I do not say that with certainty. No, how could you?
No,
and I think overall Pat's done a pretty good job, but the last 2 years here have made me think that they're veering back to their endless cycle of mediocrity.
I mean, look, they were picked to finish 13th in the preseason, but let's remember Florida State was also picked to finish 1, and we saw how that ended up, right? But I do think, the weird part was the defense got bad towards the end of the season. Got pushed around, got beat up. The offense
injuries
certainly had its issues, but there's no reason to part ways with him. But I can see him also tiring of what this is going to look like.
I agree with that.
Forward. Like that part of the game, the NIL part, that dealing with all that, the portal, he is growing tired of that. And so I think we'll see. I mean, he'll be back, but I don't think he won't be here in 2030.
Yeah, that's a long time to have a contract.
Maybe we won't either.
We'll take a break. When we come back, are the Penguins back or not? We'll talk about it next. All right, welcome back. We continue number one Cochran Sports Showdown talking about the Penguins, who magically have won 3 games in a row, some impressive ones. Vancouver, Boston, Calgary, those are impressive wins. Andrew, do you believe they're back now? They're only a few points out of a playoff spot, and Tristan Jarry's looking better.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about them now?
So my answer is still no. It's still, I don't believe in Jarry, even though he did play better. I thought Ned was actually really good against Calgary Saturday night. But if you were going to argue that they're back, the number one thing I would say is their power play has gone from being the worst in the NHL to being a little bit better than average. And I think before the season started, if you asked most Penguins fans, if their power play goes from 31 or 32 to 13, will they make the playoffs? They would have answered yes. And that's where they find themselves right now.
It's like Boston's 11.9.
Right. I mean, I think that, as we were talking off air, like the conference hasn't run away from them. I mean, they sort of benefit that, like, literally everybody from, like, 6 through 13.
What are they, 3 out or 2 out?
I think 3. The Rangers, have struggled of late.
And there's some stat, that like 75% of playoff spots are locked in by Thanksgiving, which is kind of weird, but it's a very hockey thing to do. That being said, like, they're back. If they're not back, but I think they could do what they want as long as they stick to the plan. Try to get rid of veterans and bring in young guys and still be competitive. The Tomasino move looks to be obviously pretty productive. I don't think that's sustainable, him scoring, every couple games, but. Like, if that mindset, if we can get younger and be competitive at the same time, they should. They're under no circumstance should they make any moves to try to get some 32-year-old guy to try to help them win this season.
And keep Ryan Graves out of the lineup every time.
Hey.
Well, I'm just saying.
On Graves here. Come on, man.
But that seems to be there. I have 1 minute left. Are you buying that Tristan Jarry can capture what he once had, or do you think this is just a small step back? Eventually, he'll return to what he's been earlier in this.
I mean, what is he really? And you're saying coming back?
Like I said,
really
two-time All-Star player during the regular.
No, but I
season.
mean, what has he done during this little stretch? He didn't play against Calgary.
I thought he was good in Boston.
Okay,
I did. I thought he made some big saves.
Vancouver game, they almost gave right back.
I realize that. But it's been better than what we've seen.
It is.
So
it is. I mean, he doesn't look like an American Hockey League player right now. But he doesn't look like a $5 million goalie.
he's also not their best goal. I still think it's Bloomquist, but go
Well,
ahead.
he's settled in, and like the best that you can hope for is maybe he plays himself into a tradable asset. I mean, that's what, and he's took steps in that direction this week.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes. They got the big test coming up on Tuesday as the Stanley Cup champs Florida Panthers are in town. Meanwhile, if you're in the market for a new vehicle, don't settle for anything less than #1 Cochran's clearly better car buying experience. Kia has it for you. You can enjoy exclusive clear-cut pricing where you get the most competitive offer up front. So you can also take advantage of exceptional lease and finance rates and choose from a lineup of nearly 200 new models. Experience clearly better car buying. You can only get it at #1 Cochran Kia, in-store, online, cochrankia.com. Almost out of time. Goodbye, Wanda. Before we do that, Steelers-Browns. Do you think it'll be a rout? Do you think they'll make up for it, or will it be a close AFC North?
I say 2 touchdowns, 27-13, something like that.
Okay.
Who?
Steelers.
Okay. Yeah, I think the Steelers are. What are you laughing at? I think the Steelers are going to win.
Okay.
But, I mean, there's got to be an expectation of a close game. Nance and Romo are coming to town. How about that for Steelers?
That means good meal for Pomp.
That's right. Look out, baby. That's going to do it. Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown.
Shout out Wanda King. Shout out